Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mindalia TV live stream, where thousands of people around the world gather us daily to watch the interviews and talks organized by MindaliaTV.com. In this occasion, we are very, very happy to have Shirlene Reeves with us with a talk titled From Dumpster Diving to Diamonds. Shirlene Reeves is a media personality, the author of Selling Through Your Heart, a business success coach, international keynote speaker, and founder of Selling Through Your Heart. She is currently the show host of Ascended Masters at Work, reaching listeners across all America. Right before we say hi to our guest, I would like to remind you all that if you would like to help the world through Mindalia, there are a few things you can do. One of them is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mindalia TV. Leave a like on this video or leave a positive comment down below. Please know that with these actions, you're helping us reach even more people who can benefit from the content of this channel. Also, to allow your interaction, please remember there's a chat on the side of your screen. You can ask all the questions that you would like to our guest, who will kindly answer to them by the end of her lecture. Without further delay, please welcome Shirlene Reeves. Shirlene, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, and thank you for having me. I'm very excited about being here with you today.
Thank you so much. The screen is yours, and we're now ready to listen to your lecture, so please go ahead.
Well, this is one of my favorite subjects. Should I dive or ditch the dumpster diving experience? And let me just kind of preface where I was at the time, because I was standing with my two little boys holding their hands. They were only 2 and 6, very, very young. And I was in the midst of a divorce again. I got to tell you, every time I went from dumpster diving to millions, I ended up back in the same place every time I was married. And I've been 3 times I've had marriages. And when they fail, some of you already know, it really creates a crisis in your bank account. And that's where I was at the time. I only had 15 cents in my pocket. And my 2 children and I were living on the beach down in Texas because I'd run out of gas money. I had a little 18-foot trailer, and the boys and I were just staying on the beach because there was nowhere else for us to go. It was a really different kind of lifestyle. And maybe some of you have been there. And suddenly I found myself standing in front of a big green dumpster in the back of a grocery store. And as I looked around, I saw all these other people who had come out from under the bridge and come from the I call it rescue, but it's a place where they go to sleep. And suddenly they were all there because they'd heard that there were watermelon in that dumpster, and they wanted the watermelon. And I think you probably know that when fruit expires, then they just put it in the dumpster, and that's what we were thinking about. And as I stood there holding my 2 little boys' hands, I was watching people dive in and come out with watermelons, and I suddenly thought, why is it we all have to dive in instead of one person diving in and handing it to everybody else? And I got this message from above that said, that's the way a leader thinks. That's who you are. Get your act together. And just as that was said, my oldest son said to me, Mommy, I'm okay with rice and beans. Let's have that. I don't want a watermelon anyway. And with that, we went back to the beach. And I could hear them playing. They were out running around with the seagulls, and I could hear the surf in the background. And I sat down at my little table in the trailer with my yellow pad and suddenly just began to write. Have you ever done that? Since I was 16 years old, I've been meditatively writing. And that's how I get my messages for what I'm supposed to be doing at the time. And I'd already been told to go back, that I had to think differently. That's what that told me, is I had to think differently. And I love what Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I think my oldest son gave me the release to not have to get the watermelon and that we could walk back to the beach. So as I'm sitting there at the table writing out this major, major information that shifted my life, I finally realized it was time to make a major change. And it all depended on me. It didn't depend on anybody else. So I started noodling out on the tablet my life-changing 3 C's. Now, I also put this into my book, and I'm going to share it with you now because it was so personal and it made such a big difference in my life. But I'd like to digress back to the fact that when I was a child, I was literally beaten down and abused if I shared an opinion or spoke up and said what I wanted or what I thought should happen. And it went on throughout my total childhood. And I had absolutely nowhere to run in order to resolve this. And I was angry. I was angry at both of my parents for beating on me the way they did. And I was so, so fearful. And I carried that anger into adulthood. How many of you have done that? Carried that anger into adulthood? I had done it for sure. And at 7 years old, I even wanted to commit suicide because I didn't know what to do or who could help me. I had a very, very controlling father and a mother who tended to get me into trouble. So we were beaten, my brother and I, very, very frequently. And there was a lot of fear and anxiety in our family. I don't know if you've ever felt like that before or had that experience, but it's very painful and you don't know what to do, especially as a 7-year-old child. And in those days, beating on children was normal. It was just a way of life. And as my father said before he passed, just this past May, he said, you know, I loved my father even though he beat on me. So now we know where it came from. And I just expected that my children would love me because I was doing it for their best. Well, we all know that abuse doesn't help anybody, and it isn't the best for any child. But that's, as I said, what they did in those days. Now, I had to really think about these life-changing 3 C's. And the first one is clearing. It's all about clearing the negativity that we've experienced in our past. And what I was wondering was, how did I get to this point in my life where I only had 15 cents and I was living in a trailer with my 2 small boys? That was the beginning of the clarity. And I think you've heard before that we have to peel the onion in order to get to the reality of what we're really experiencing. And now 3 times I'd gone from vastly rich and owning companies that I built up with my husband's to penniless yet again. So here I sat. I wonder what I've done to get myself to this point. I wonder what part I had in this whole experience. And I learned that my mistakes were nothing but golden nuggets because I'd made a lot of mistakes, let me tell you. I'm not a good husband picker. If you know what I mean, I'm not the best person to pick a husband or a mate because I've failed 3 times. But guess what? I'm really good at it now because every one of those were golden nuggets. And now I know what I don't want. And it steered me toward what I do want. So what I tell my students is all of our mistakes are okay. We're all here together in Earth School. And we make mistakes, golden mistakes. Sometimes they're very, very costly. And sometimes we go down the rabbit hole for 5 years at a time when we make a poor decision. But we have to look at what the reality is. We also have to look at the relationships that we've had in our life and what part in it we have played. I remember I had Dr. John DeMartini on my TV show, and he said a very important comment. He said, every relationship is really, really part of the perfection. It's giving you feedback to let you know what you haven't loved in yourself, and yet you're projecting it onto other people. Did you get that? Did you get that? He said every relationship is really part of the perfection. It's giving you feedback to let you know what you haven't loved in yourself, and yet you're projecting it onto other people. Like I said, I was really, really angry at my father because he always tried to control me. So I had to look at myself. What was it that I was trying to control at that time? What decisions that I had made that had gotten me to that point? Because what we see in others is really what we dislike in ourselves. Have you ever been told that? That's really key. When we get angry at other people, we have to see what we say or listen to what we say and really mirror it back on ourselves, because we're the ones who are recognizing it in someone else, and we would never see it if it wasn't within us. When I went through one of my divorces, I got to tell you a hint. He would call me and barang and yell at me and tell me exactly who he thought I was and what he thought I was going to do. And because I knew this secret about seeing things in others that are actually in us, I was able to move through the divorce in peace. And a lot of times I laughed because I had no intentions of doing anything that he had said, but I knew that that was exactly what he was going to do. And it was so good of him because he told me every step of the way. And I ended up in a really good position the last time because I knew that secret. So always remember that secret. Whatever you hear someone else saying about someone else, say to yourself, do I see that in them? And you'll really learn about people. You'll also learn how to think with your heart instead of your head, because you'll recognize the pain that they're experiencing, or they wouldn't see it in someone else. So we always see ourselves in other people. And my favorite quote in my book is, seeing the errors within allows you to forgive yourself and the others involved. So if you are in a difficult space right now, think about what I've said about clearing the negativity out of our own thoughts so that we can make a difference in our lifestyle, in our future. Because the truth is, and this is the clarity part, what we see and say is what we receive. I could have gone and told everybody how horrible my husband was acting and all the negativity that was going on, but I chose not to say anything about any of that because I was trying to turn my life around. And at that time, when I was sitting at the beach, I could have said, I'm never going to have money again. I'm so poor. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to end up living under the bridge and eating with all of those people. Or I could say to myself, I've never seen myself as poor. I will never be poor. And I will always have great wealth within because of all the knowledge I've experienced in the past. After all, I've had 3 husbands and I've built a multi-million-dollar business with 23,000 working under me. That's where I subsequently went after I noodled out these 3 C's. Now let's talk a little more about the clarity. I had to figure out who I was. I'd been beaten down for so long, I didn't think my opinion was even worthwhile. I didn't think that there was any benefit to me living with someone else or having anything to do with someone else's life and being their friends. I didn't feel worthy. I wonder if you've ever felt that way yourself. Have you ever not felt worthy? Or did you allow someone to let you not feel worthy just by what they've said repeatedly over and over and over again? And let me tell you about that. I just had a conversation with a woman, and she was calling me a liar. What did I just teach you? If she's calling me a liar, she thinks that she is a liar herself. And all I could do was apologize to her over and over and over again, because I'm all about peace, not pain. I don't want pain in my life. And as a result, I choose to look at others differently. We're all one. If you think of the Sea of Cortez, which I have right outside my window, there's waves there, right? Well, you couldn't take one wave away from the sea. It doesn't work. And we are all one, working together to learn here in Earth School and to love our friends, our family as best we can by just listening to who they are and what they have to say. It doesn't mean you have to share this little secret, but I'll tell you what, you suddenly learn who you are in the mix. Because when you start to say something about someone else, quickly look within and see if you see that in yourself and stop immediately. If I had continued or even started to complain about my last husband and told the same story over and over and over about the divorce that I was going through, and many, many do, have you ever noticed that? People actually run from those people. They run down the hallway to get away from them and hide in the ladies' room because they're thinking, I don't want to hear that even one more time. Well, what happens when you consistently say things over and over and over and they're negative? You bring more of that upon yourself. It's all about the energy that we put out into the universe. So if you want to really shift your lifestyle, and boy, did I want to shift mine at that time when I was living on the beach, you have to change the way you think about yourself. I never thought of myself as poor. I was never going to live under the bridge. And I knew I could make money again because I'd already built 3 businesses with 3 husbands who thought they could just take the business over and run it on their own. But it didn't really work that way for them. And I'm sorry for them for thinking that way, but that's okay. That was their life experience. And the other thing is, I want to tell you, you can never live anybody else's life experience because we're all on our own journey. We're all on our own path. And once I became clear and I started breaking through the confusion of where I was at the time and bringing myself up to a more confident level, that was the 3rd C. Remember, thinking is believing. And in the beginning, we make a lot of mistakes and we say, oh, about her and oh, about him, and I'm this or I'm that or I'm really mad, or, well, that doesn't help you at all. That doesn't build your confidence. That doesn't build your self-esteem, because what you say is ultimately what you get. So remember, thinking is believing. I had no intentions of being poor. And I believe the experiences you go through are the lessons you failed to learn, presented to you once again. Now, the last C is all about confidence. And that's what I really took and ran with. That's how I built my multi-million-dollar business, because I was interacting with vice presidents of banks, and I was the 2nd largest document signing service in the nation. We were called Signing Pro Inc. And I had 23,000 people that worked under, and 15 people inside my call center. Do you think I couldn't have done that if I hadn't built the confidence? I had to bring myself from a position of being beaten down with low self-esteem, no confidence, and not trusting my own abilities to running a nationwide corporation, walking with presidents and vice presidents of our largest banking institutions and title companies, also lenders. So you think about it. When I walk you through it, step by step in the book, you'll be able to figure this out on your own if you're at your most difficult point in your life also. Remember these 3 C's, if you remember anything, because I decided not to dive. I decided to ditch. And I learned about clearing the negativity out of my life, then bringing clarity into who I am as a person and how I build relationships from the heart. And this is what built all the confidence that brought me to the ability to speak to you the truth of where I come from right this very minute. I've gone on to be a media personality and, as you know, write my book, and I interview over and over again. And you can do this too if you are conscious of the 3 C's. If you remember that those who are in pain and are lashing out at others are only really lashing out at themselves. It changes your whole perspective of how you look at your lifestyle, how you look at those who surround you, and you begin to see the pain that they're experiencing within. Now, here's a little caveat. It doesn't mean you fix them. Please don't fix them. They have to learn in Earth School on their own. They are on their own path, and you are on yours, just like I'm on mine. But where do you want your path to lead you? I wanted my path to lead me into working with people all over the world. I wanted to get a message of love and heartfelt sales and caring out to people so that they can make a difference in their own lives and their own businesses. You've heard one of my most favorite messages because I won. I decided to ditch the dumpster and really look within and find out who I was to build the confidence that I could move into the lifestyle that I wanted to. And I took my business, many of them, from nothing. I literally bootstrapped it from 0 to multi-millions just by caring about those I was working with and befriending each and every one of them. Now, there aren't always people that we can get along with. I'll be honest with you. And those aren't the people that you want to work with in your business and your life. And sometimes it's even family. But we have to give them the space and the love that they deserve because they are souls just like you are, just like I am. And they deserve to be loved, heard, and cared for in all cases. So look at the pain that they're experiencing in the process that they're living and watch how they bring it on themselves. Just simply observe and observe how you bring it on yourself. And I promise you, it will make a huge change in your lifestyle. So my friends, I went from 15 cents in my pocket to living in a beautiful condo right on the beach in San Felipe on the Sea of Cortez. And I have multiple streams of income that keep me here at where I want to be because I can live in peace. And then I go and I speak and I appear on other shows, and it's made all the difference in the world. And with the confidence that I've built And I've been able to become who I am and come through all of that is the message that I have for you, because you can do it too. I promise. This is my secret. Remember these 3 C's, and you will always be ahead of the game, no matter what it is that you are trying to do. But listen, love, be caring, and be kind. No matter what you try to do. Sometimes our most frustrating experiences are our biggest tests in who we really are. So when you have a difficult time or a difficult experience, remember my words. It's the small stuff. It doesn't really matter. And what others see in you when you go through those hardships is who you really are. Michael Singer told me once while we were sitting on the beach together in Maui, remember, people are watching. And I appreciate greatly that you are watching now.
Thank you so much, Shirlene, for your intervention. This was a very, very beautiful message, and we appreciate all the information that you had shared live with us. I'm going to go ahead and start reading the questions from the audience to you. I'm going to have you on camera, and I'll start with the very first one. We have Ellen from Oklahoma, and he's asking you how to remain positive when going through a divorce.
Oh, I'm so good at that. I've done 3 of them. Look at the comical side of it, because people do such ridiculous things. My last divorce, because he told me everything that he was going to be doing, I couldn't help but laugh because it was so ridiculous. So look at the messages that you're receiving. If you talk to your wife, what is she saying to you? Is she calling you the names that she sees in herself? And then it becomes absolutely ridiculous. So just look at what she's saying and then see her pain and feel the love in your heart for the pain that she's experiencing. And maybe she'll become more easy to work with. That's what happened to me. Everything fell into place as long as I looked at it in a positive way. And I took each part of the divorce as one step at a time and peeled away the onion on that too. One step at a time. Always remember that. Because if you try to leap ahead, then the other person isn't with you and you can't get where you want to go. So that's my best advice to that question.
Thank you, Shirlene. The next question says, how did you release the anger you had carried from your childhood?
That's a really good one. I've spent thousands of dollars doing that. I've worked with different modalities that people have had. I spent 2 weeks in Sedona with a woman that supported me through that. I really think it's something that you can't do completely on your own. I knew something was stuck in my core, but I didn't know what it was, and I couldn't get it out, and I couldn't look at it for some reason. And you know, sometimes the biggest fear that we have within our body is the one that makes us the angriest. And I had to really go in deep, really, really deep. And I found an old woman there that was protecting the child within me. And I had a chat with her. And once we made peace together, then everything began to shift and my life began to just fall into place. Things fall into place for me now with whatever it is that I'm doing because I've released that anger. And boy, I have to tell you, I was really, really angry. And if I hadn't released that anger, I couldn't have sat with my father for 10 days just recently. I would have still been angry. And my brother's still angry. And he said to me, quote, go kiss the ring, end quote. He wouldn't come to see him. He was still so angry. But I'm so far beyond that. It just wasn't worth it. And it was better to send my father off with love and support. And that's what I chose to do.
Beautiful. Thank you, Shirlene. The next question says, I have a very judgmental partner. Does it make me a judgmental person?
No. If you have a judgmental partner, remember that partner is seeing in you what they have deep within themselves. So let them be judgmental. Who cares? It may or may not be real, because what they're accusing you of is really who they are. It's not about you at all. It's all about them. Just change the way you look at it. As Wayne, who trained me over on Maui, I trained with him for 5 years. He taught me to really just shift it and say, you know what? This is another soul, and I've chosen to be with this soul. And what am I learning on this journey? And then start journaling like crazy, because I promise you, once you see what you're learning, then it changes the perspective. And maybe some of that is real. Take a look at it. If it's not, see it in them. That will help you. Sometimes we have things to work on. Sometimes they have things to work on. But first of all, change how you see them and look at them as another soul. Look right into their eyes and see their soul. And you'll see that they have a great deal of pain. Then you go to your heart and say, I understand. I see who you are. It's just that simple. And I was raised by very, very judgmental people. I could do nothing right. And my husbands were that same way. But I learned a lot. And now I'm so at peace, and I can just love whoever it is that I'm talking to, because I know who they are just by the words that they use.
Thank you, Shirlene. We go now to Texas, and Mark is asking, having experienced so much abuse as a child, what do you think would be the best way to teach something to our children?
Could you say that again? What do I think?
What would you think is the best way to teach something to our children?
Oh, that's a really good one. You know, I'm very spiritual. I believe in God or the universe or Jesus Christ, whoever you want to say. And I think that we need to teach our children that they're always loved and they're always protected, so that they learn from within that they are connected to everyone here, and help them be friends and care about others. I asked a child the other day, I said, and he was beating up on his brother all the time. It was so annoying. And I asked him, I said, why can't you just love each other? Why do you have to beat on each other? And his comment was, what is love? That's awful. If he doesn't even know what love is, how is he going to live a life without fear? And I think the biggest thing that we need to learn is that we have all the power within. There's fear all around us. Think about it. I live in Baja, Mexico. Every report you hear is negative, but it doesn't come from this area. And I could be living in fear every day, but I choose not to. I choose to live in love, and I know everything that I do, I'm completely protected. And that's the best thing that you could do for your child, no matter what. And have them sit quietly and go within. It starts very, very in short increments, like 5 to 10 seconds at a time. And you can have them listen to music or something like that, but let them go within, because they'll start learning how to do that. And then they'll have a connection that guides them.
Great, thank you. The next question says, do you think we can transform our life with positive affirmations? How would these work like?
No. My answer is no. A lot of people tell us to do positive affirmations because it keeps us in a positive frame of mind. But I had to laugh. I was at one of John DeMartini's lectures, and he was talking about how he practiced the power of positive thinking. And he is so detail oriented. He noted every time that he thought positively, excuse me, over and over and again, and it didn't change his life at all. What he teaches is to break through what it is that we're thinking. What is that deepest, deepest fear way down? I do the same thing. I did an Ascended Masters workshop not too long ago in San Diego, and we looked at that fear. Remember, I told you about the old woman. You have to look at your fear. You can do all the positive affirmations that you want to, but if you don't look within and really get into your deepest fears, that's what runs the show. Those fears that are way down deep inside that created all the pain. And a little story. Can I tell just a short little story about a woman that I know?
Of course, please go ahead. Okay,
so she had this house. And it was way, way far away. It was out in the mountains. There was no one anywhere around her. And she lived in town, big city before that. And she had like these, I call them receptors, because every time somebody said something she didn't like, she got hurt or she got angry and ticked off. And it kept happening. And she kept growing more and more of these receptors. And finally, she moved into this house. And people would come to visit her and they'd upset her still because she never really looked within to resolve the pain that she was experiencing. She never did that clarity step to see who she really was and why she had so much pain. So she kept getting into a darker and darker situation. She built a big fence around herself. She didn't want anybody to come and visit. She had people come and bring her groceries so she didn't have to go to the store because she was so afraid that somebody would hurt her. She had a fear of everything. I couldn't believe how many fears there were. And then pretty soon, she put out these big steel guards on her windows. And after that, she put these big giant drapes, these blackout drapes. And then she wasn't going out and she didn't have any ability to pay her bills. So the power went off and then she had all these candles and it went along okay until she had no more candles. Then she had to sit in the dark and think about how she got where she was. And she started digging herself out. And it took her about 6 months. That's how I felt too, like I was in the dark, trying to dig myself out. And finally she did. And she started coming back into the world because she realized that she had these receptors built in all over her body and that really she had nothing at all to fear. And she figured that out once she was in the dark. So you can do that too, or you can pull your receptors in and change the way you look at yourself.
That's amazing. Thank you for that message, Shirlene.
You're welcome.
Let's go ahead with the next question. It says, how can we get clarity when going, how can we get clarity when going through bad times and when everything seems to be falling apart?
When everything's falling apart, those are your biggest lessons in life, and that's going to be your biggest transformation. We have shifts in our life, big shifts, you might have noticed. And those big shifts are what help you grow in Earth School. It's what creates a shift in your life, and it's always for the better, because when you come out on the other side, you go, oh my gosh, I learned so much in that experience. So as you're going through, yes, it is so hard. And I suggest, if at all you're into it, that you start journaling, because we lose track of how far we've come in an experience unless we either write it down or type it into our computer or record it or anything that you want to do. But it gets it out. And that's what peels that onion for you. You have to look at that onion, because if everything's not working out and it's all falling apart and it's been consistent for a really long time, then you're going through a shift in your life, a complete shift. However, if it's something you're trying to get into and you're trying to do and absolutely nothing falls into place, it's probably not the right path. You're probably on the wrong path. So look at the situation. Have you been comfortable for a really long time and now this is happening? There's no why. It's all about how you perceive it, what you learn from it, and the difference it makes in your life journey.
Amazing. Thank you, Shirlene. I think we have reached the last question from our audience today, and it says, it's probably on a different note. It says, what is the key to build a successful business and life?
Well, one key is to always hire, for business, always hire a coach that's doing whatever it is you want to do and has your beliefs. If you hire a coach that says, oh, you know, I'll show you how to make a 7-figure income, and they've never done that, I guarantee you're going to pay a whole lot of money and you're probably never going to make a 7-figure income. Another thing is to know that you probably don't have to make a 7-figure income. I give you the secret to not having to do that in the book, so you could go check that out. But you don't have to run yourself so hard. Leave time for yourself, your family, and your life. Earn enough in your business just to make you comfortable. I see people dropping sick and having to go to bed or having heart attacks or strokes all the time. And it's because they're chasing the energy of the 7-figure income. And after I talk to them, they realize, oh, maybe I could have a life. I don't have to make 7 figures. Why bother? Because you don't have to. And it changes your lifestyle. Suddenly, you can relax. And you realize that if you hate the job that you're in, you don't have to stay there, because you don't really have to make that much money if you're not always spending that much money. And there's all kinds of tips in the book on how to really look at what you are spending based on what you do have coming in. And if you don't want to do that job anymore and you want to start a business, then make sure that you keep the job until you got the business up and running. I hope you really think about that, because your lifestyle is always the end result. That's always whatever it is that you want. So do whatever you have to do a vision board or put things on the refrigerator. I don't mean Maseratis and things like that. If you don't want to work a lot harder, then find something that isn't a Maserati. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Think differently about how you spend your money, and when you spend your money, it'll make a huge difference in your lifestyle. Don't go out and just spend. I've seen people who pay off their car and they're so used to making that payment, they run out and buy a whole another car or a whole new car and start making the payments again, because that's what they're comfortable doing. We have to look at ourselves, look at our lifestyle, and look at where we want to go, and then start planning it. I don't know who said this, but this person was brilliant, whoever it was. And they said, we don't always plan to fail. We just fail to plan. And that's what I did in that little 18-foot trailer. I created a plan, and I promised the universe that I would take every step that I was given, and I did it. And now I live the lifestyle I've always wanted to live.
Great. Thank you so much, Shirlene. Thank you again for sharing all this information with us. We appreciate every single message and advice that you had given us today. And to all the people who had watched us on Mindalia TV Live, thanks for your important participation. Before we finish, I would like to give a minute to our guest just to say goodbye and to give us her contact information so our Mindalia TV audience knows how to find you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you could go and take the Selling Through Your Heart quiz if you happen to be a business owner. It's a lot of fun. It's only 12 questions, and it tells you whether you sell through your heart or whether you're aggressive about your sales. Do you compel people to work with you, or do you actually do the hard sell? Because that's not anymore. And I'd love it if you would pick up my book, Selling Through Your Heart, because this is what I shared with you. And people are telling me that it's a very easy read and they're getting a lot out of it. So just go to sellingthroughyourheart.com and you can pick up the book and you can take the quiz. And I think you'll really enjoy both. So go to sellingthroughyourheart.com and you'll get everything that I have on the website. And you'll see a lot of videos too. And my programs are there for business and massive visibility media. So thank you so much for listening to me today. And your questions were phenomenal.
Thank you so much, Shirlene. And again, to our Mindalia family, just a quick reminder, if you would like to help the world through Mindalia TV, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, or leave a positive comment down below. That'll help us reach even more people who can benefit from the content of our channel. Shirlene, again, thank you so much for being with us today. And to all of our audience, thanks for watching, as we'll see you next time.